Marques Brownlee is a popular YouTube star, a darling behind the massively insanely famous MKBHD YouTube channel that has now probably surpassed 20 million subscribers, if it's not there yet. In his 15-year-old career, amassed more than 4 billion views. This is the guy that has been venerated for more than a decade as the best tech reviewer on the internet, and he's confirmed his success by interviewing famous people like Kobe Bryant, big tech CEOs, and even Bill Gates. He's also a star of the Retro Tech YouTube original series that is being produced by Vox Media Studios, and anytime he posts a video, it instantly gets millions of views. In many cases, it gets on the top of the trending page on YouTube. He probably makes more money in a day or in a week than a poor family in America makes in an entire year. I've recently learned that he became a board member of the Rich company that makes the Rich wallet and other accessories. It's a super popular YouTube sponsor. And Marques has been regarded as one of the quality tech reviewers, someone that has integrity, that he always says it as it is, that he never backs down, and he is very famous for underlining his critique of other companies and their tech products by saying that you should judge a product by what it is right now, not by what its makers promise it would be in the future. So by that standard, we are going to judge Marques here, because Marques recently made an app, and not just any app, a wallpaper app. A wallpaper app is not something that I thought that anyone would ever need, but apparently there is a market for this. These are apps that would cycle wallpapers on your phone for you. They would probably choose from certain sources out there on the internet so that you're not going through the same pictures all the time. It does seem like it's a pretty niche thing for people that actually appreciate that form of art. I would struggle to understand if there was any need for any monetization whatsoever of this thing, because the only people that truly need to be monetized by you using their art are the artists themselves. Developing apps is definitely not free, I understand that, but digital distribution is always going to be cheaper than actually making content, especially when it's something as low bandwidth as just distributing pictures to people's phones. Now, as soon as Marques Brownlee released his wallpaper app that is called Panels, he immediately received backlash from all of its users because the app is horrendous. There are two tiers to the app. There is an ad-supported free version and a premium version that you have to pay $50 a year to get the highest quality pictures. For the ad-free version, you have to watch multiple minutes of ads every single day in order to get the standard resolution of the images that you're looking for. And if you want the highest quality, let's say 4K resolution, you actually have to pay a lot of money. And it turns out that there is no great value in this service because, as I found on F-Droid and on other platforms, it is easy to get an infinite amount of quality wallpapers essentially for free, where you can either donate voluntarily to the developers and artists, or you just keep it for yourself. I'm gonna link all of these free and open source wallpaper apps that I found, and if you want to check them out instead of giving a rich YouTuber even more money. But MKBHD's Panels goes way beyond anything that could be considered reasonable in a wallpaper app. Out of the box, the app is riddled with advertising that is profoundly invasive and intrusive. The level of data collection conducted by this app is insane. And Marques Brownlee immediately put out a defense that this is not a data collection that is conducted by his app, it is rather by the ad networks that are connected to the app. Nonetheless, it is still insane to me. It is even worse because this is not first-party data collection, which is, in my opinion, bad enough. This is data collection by third parties that Marques Brownlee decided to partner with in order to monetize his endeavor. There are two immediate sources that will tell you about this data collection, and that is on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store if you go through the data safety and data policy information about these apps. Let's get this from the Apple App Store. The app privacy says that there is data used to track you, which includes identifiers. I don't know which specific identifiers it talks about because there are many identifiers on your phone. There are software identifiers that are connected to your operating system or the app itself or your account. But there are also hardware identifiers which are persistent, they are permanent, and you cannot change them or reset them. So they are uniquely tied to you in your device and you can do nothing about them. Then there is data that's linked to you, which includes purchases, contact info, usage data, location, identifiers, and diagnostics. Now, Marques Brownlee says that the app does not ask for your location, that this data policy is actually too broad for what the app is actually doing. And it might be true, but we are going to get there when we start looking at the Google Play Store listing and their privacy policy laid out in the Play Store. And then there's another category that talks about diagnostics, which is weird because that category is both listed in data that is linked to you and data that is not linked to you. And now Apple had a very embarrassing when researchers found out that when you opt out of the detailed analytics and diagnostics that's shared with Apple, telemetry, etc., then Apple is still collecting that information anyway, and they're still tying that information to a unique identifier called DSID. And that identifier is actually uniquely tied to each specific Apple ID or Apple user. So it is something that can actually be used to build up a profile, and it was found out that this collection is happening even if you opt out. So I'm not sure if this is something that affects this app on the iPhone also. That exposure that I'm talking about was affecting Apple application and the entire iOS system. But let's go to the Google Play Store and see what the information can tell us there. Now, let me remind you that the data safety and privacy policy, that the data disclosure that these developers are doing on the Play Store and the App Store is kind of voluntary. There is going to be some vetting of this process through the platforms by Google and Apple, but you should not consider this as technologically accurate. It is not something as looking at what the app is actually doing, looking at its code, or looking at its permission manifest. So let's continue through the data safety on the Play Store for panels. So data that is shared contains your device ID or other IDs. It doesn't talk about which specific IDs, but when I open up the category, it talks about ad functionality, fraud prevention, security, compliance, and account management. So perhaps there are some identifiers that are generated within the app or for the accounts, and these are collected. When it talks about device identifiers, I really want to know if it's requesting access to your hardware identifiers, because on Android, from Android 10, third-party apps cannot get access to your IMEI or IMSI number, which is tied to your SIM card, or your serial number. I would really want to know what kind of device identifiers Marques Brownlee is collecting and sharing with third-party ad networks. Then there is personal info, name, email address, and user IDs. So user IDs would be those that are tied to your account. These are soft identifiers. They can be reset. However, because of the amount of data that is collected by apps like this one, even if you change your account or anonymize it by providing a fake email address, one that is not tied to your real life address or real name, they could still build up a unique profile or perhaps tie different profiles together. They also collect tons of in-app activity, so that's usage data for analytics, security, compliance, etc. Specifically, they talk about in-app search history. So that's interesting because whatever you do inside this app is not going to be private. That's going to be collected by Marques and sold to these advertising network, because that's what this means. If Marques wants to claim that this is not the accurate representation of what his app is doing, then he needs to change this. But unless he does, we have to go by this, by the fact that his app is collecting your usage information, it is collecting your identifiable information, and that information, as it is laid out here, is being shared with third parties, which in this case is ad networks that are tied to his app. There is also app info and performance, which also includes crash logs and diagnostics. Now, crash logs, I think, should be optional. You should not have this mandatory or by default or something that cannot be turned off. I think you should always ask if there is a crash, if they want to send their logs to you, because these can be detailed, very invasive, and sometimes people might not be comfortable sharing all of that information with you. And I definitely do not trust Marques because he actually does not have any security expertise when it comes to software development. So I don't think that he invested any reasonable amount of time to make sure that the data that he's collecting is anonymized by any of the number of anonymization techniques that exist, such as introducing noise or federated learning and other things that, can improve your app without actually invading on someone else's privacy. Now, there is also data that is collected, which includes device and other IDs. It includes personal info, which is your name, email address, and user IDs. Your name obviously is optional, but it's going to be collected if you actually sign up for the premium version. When you look at the security practices of MKBHD's panels at the bottom of his Play Store listing, you will see that data is encrypted in transit, and you can request the data will be deleted. Now, don't be so sure about that data is encrypted in transit, because that's for the 99% of the traffic that your phone is sending to anyone else. Your data to Google is encrypted. Your data to Apple, to Facebook, to all of these apps that are tracking and collecting your personal information is encrypted in transit. And in transit simply means that when it leaves your device, it is encrypted to external observers. So if anyone wanted to hack into a telecommunication network, they would not be able to see what kind of information your device is sending to a particular website, server, or a provider. However, when it reaches their server, they have the keys to unlock the data, and they will do that because they want to monetize that information. They want to share it with the third parties, with the ad networks that are going to be throwing ads down your throat at these apps. So it is not protected. It is not private. It is encrypted. Technically, that's true. It is encrypted, but it is not end-to-end encryption or client-side encryption, and it is not privacy encryption. Now, all of this is just soft information, but there is also hard information that is only available on the Google Play Store, because all applications that are published on Android and that go through the Play Store have to publish their manifest. This is also true for F-Droid, which is an open source alternative to the Google Play Store and lists many of the open source apps on there. And you can also see their permissions and what kind of things they are asking for before you even have to install the app. No such thing is available on the Apple ecosystem, whether it's on the iPhone or anywhere else. Apple does not publish the manifest of permissions that they require from developers to submit to them, and you don't even know what specific permissions will be required unless you install the app and the app prompts you to grant them a certain permission. So on Google, you have actually much more transparency than on Apple, and in order to find that, you actually have to open up the app listing on the Play Store, and you have to open up the About This App section, and you have to just scroll down until you see permissions, and you click on View Details, and you should have a list of all of the permissions, including install time permissions, permissions that will be asked during prompt, and permissions that you will never hear or know about unless you have this list of information. And this will tell you what specific things the app will technically have access to when you install it. And this is very interesting because Marques Brownlee app will want to read the contents of your USB storage, obviously modified, or delete the contents of your storage. They will want to also receive data from the internet, view network connections, full network access, reordering running apps, set wallpaper, prevent device from sleeping, read Google service configuration. And that sounds like that's it, but I think what happened here is that Marques Brownlee is doing damage control because the previous version of the app permission manifest had more permissions that also include advertiser ID and advertiser APIs. And luckily, I was able to actually screen grab that permission list, and I'm gonna read through that for you now. The old permission manifest had only storage permissions for modified and delete contents of your shared storage, and then for other, it had advertising ID permission, run foreground service, reorder running apps, access ad service topics API, Google Play billing service, Android permission, run user-initiated jobs, have full network access, view network connections, prevent phone from sleeping, Play install refer API, access ad ID API, access ad services attribution APIs, set wallpaper, show notifications, receive data from the internet, read Google service configuration. This is something that actually got a lot of people outraged because even the people that wanted to, get this app for free, they had to watch so many ads and they still couldn't get the high quality art content that they were looking for unless they actually paid $50 a year. So the advertising ID permission and the ad ID that's talked about here is asking for an advertising ID that is both on Apple and on Google. And this is only served as a software identifier. It is not baked into the hardware. On Android, it is generated by Google Play services, and it can be reset. It can also be deleted, and it is optional. So if you go to your Android settings and you go through the advertiser settings, you should find an option to disable advertising ID completely, and that should leave you opted out of this thing. However, the advertising will still happen on this app. Data collection will still happen on this app. They will just not be able to access your ad ID. You can also do this on the iPhone with Apple settings, and there is also this ad ID permission prompt that should pop up as soon as you open up this app, and it wants to track you across different apps and websites. But here is the thing. If you find any of the free and open source wallpaper apps, for instance, I found one that's called WallU, a privacy-focused wallpaper app built with Material Design 3U. This seems like an app that has very similar functionality, and if we scroll down to permissions, it's very similar in certain aspects, like view network connections, run in the foreground, have full network access, obviously, because it's pulling the artwork from the internet, run at startup because, it's probably changing your wallpaper at the startup, set wallpaper. But as you can see, there are no advertising permissions here. I found another app that's called Paperize, a wallpaper changer. Paperize is an efficient wallpaper changer application with a clean design. It's very similar. Again, you can also have certain changes that you can apply to how this app works and how it shows the artwork on your wallpaper. And again, no advertising network permissions, no ad ID permissions. It's just completely free and open source and without any sort of data collection that's happening through a third-party ad network. I found another app that's called Wallflow, beautiful wallpapers from wallhaven.cc and Reddit. Again, if you scroll down and you look at the permissions of this app, it's very minimalistic. It does modify your storage and has access to the same things pretty much, but it is not advertising. It is not connecting you to a third-party advertising network that wants to collect your information because that's how they make money. I want to be clear about something here. It is possible to make these apps without doing this cash grab, invasive privacy policy, insane premium pricing. It is absolutely possible to do that. Marques Brownlee decided not to do that because he wanted to make more money, as if he needs to make more money. I don't know, like he's a multi-millionaire. I don't know how much you need to price gouge your own audience in order to be finally satisfied that you've made enough. I guess the limit is nowhere here with YouTubers. And let's talk about the remuneration for artists, because they deserve that also. Well, it appears that Marques Brownlee is taking a 50% cut off of all of these transactions that you make within the app. To me, that's horrendous and absolutely insane. YouTube takes that cut, and the video bandwidth delivering 4K or 8K videos to billions of users around the world, it is absolutely incomprehensible, and it's impossible to even compare to delivering simple images to people's phones. Like, there is absolutely no justification to have a 50% cut in a digital distribution platform that this app is trying to be, just to deliver people's images. Valve is taking a 30% cut. Patreon is taking a 5 to 12% cut, and they are actually delivering my podcasts and my videos and plenty of other content that I'm delivering on my Patreon page. Google and Apple take 15% off of the vast majority of in-app transactions for the vast majority of developers. In fact, according to Google, 99% of developers publishing to the Play Store are qualified for the 15% commission or less. Otherwise, if you earn more than $1 million a year, then you get the 30% commission, which is still less than what Marques Brownlee is charging here. This is an absolutely shameless cash grab opportunity for a YouTube darling personality that probably thinks they can do no wrong. If you have $50 to spend, just get one of these free wallpaper apps, or just get wallpapers from anywhere you like and donate to artists directly, because then at least they get a lot more money that you spend this way. you'll probably save some, and what you save you can actually donate to my Patreon instead, because there you'll get access to hundreds upon hundreds of episodes that I've made over the years on my podcast. So that's all I had to say about this. It's really shameful that someone like Marques Brownlee, someone that has been venerated by this community as one of the best and top creators out there, is doing something as shady and shameless as this.